Hello, everyone. Greetings and welcome to TIRA's Global Mobility Matters series, where we speak with corporate HR and mobility leaders to gain their perspective on the future of work. I'm Susan Ginsberg, a TIRA partner and founder of SRG Advisory. TIRA is an allied network of over 50 independently owned relocation experts. This trusted network is comprised of some of the leading mobility experts in the world, where they help organizations to move their talent to where they're needed and when they're needed. I'm thrilled to be here today with Heather Rychener, Head of International Mobility and Group Benefits at the Adecco Group. Welcome, Heather.
Thank you so much, Susan. So lovely to be here with you today.
Great, and likewise. I'd love you to tell our viewers a little bit about yourself, as well as your work and role at the Adecco Group, please.
Thank you so much. So I think I came into the mobility space quite naturally because I grew up in a family that moved around a lot, and it piqued my interest, and I ended up moving personally to 6 countries or 7 countries. I've lost count, but it's been an adventure and something that has made me who I am today and brought me to the career that I am today. And that is the head of international mobility and group benefits at the Adecco Group. Maybe a little bit about the Adecco Group. The Adecco Group is a human resources consultancy company, and we support individuals finding talent worldwide in various sectors, including short-term, digital, or talent consultancy. And we have about 55,000 employees worldwide and millions of associates. So these are the people who are the benefits of working with the Adecco Group, the short-term workers. And it's just a fabulous organization to work with because it's constantly changing. And I think right now for me, it sort of builds on all of the experience that I've gathered in my various experiences working in Australia and the US and Germany and England. And I'm just very, very happy to be here today.
Wonderful. And we're thrilled to have you here and to really gain insights from the depth and breadth of your tremendous experience. And again, thank you for sharing your time and your expertise. So now on to the questions. In your experience, Heather, what assignment types are you seeing now? And are there any specific services that are currently in demand?
It's a great question, Susan. And I think the assignment types that we are at the Adecco Group are mostly invested in, and I don't think it's unusual to other companies. It's moving away from the classical tax equalized assignments, which are limited to a certain period of time, and moving towards host-based assignments, which align you with the host location's compensation and tax structure, and local transfers, where you are moving people permanently. I think it's the way businesses need to move to keep up with cost pressure within the organization. It's also a way to ensure that people actually integrate. And so I think that's a very positive thing. Additionally, and I think this is the result of COVID possibly, but we're also seeing a lot more of commuters, and this is particularly in Europe. So I work in Zurich, Switzerland, and Europe is a small space, relatively speaking, and it's very easy to get on a plane or a train or in your car and then be in the next country. So we have individuals who are commuting, but there are tax implications for that, and that's where the mobility space comes very important. And then there's also remote work, which also related to COVID, people were used to not moving, and they were used to being able to kind of go to a different country potentially, or a different coffee shop, or a different somewhere. And whether that was in their home country or whether that was in another location didn't play a role to them, but it does play a role to ensuring that we have a compliant assignment or setup for the individual.
Well, thank you. Your insights and the sharing of the shifting assignment types make a lot of sense and are in line with what we're hearing And your point about compliance, that's an ever ongoing challenge for you or any, corporate or mobility leader to manage. So kind of shifting with that. And we'll talk about that thread and that theme throughout the rest of our conversation. So moving on to the next question, Heather, if you could reflect on the shifting future of work, knowing that none of us have a crystal ball, but we're all asked that question, given the depth and breadth of your experience, what does it look like now if you were to paint a picture? And what are your thoughts on how it may change in the next 3 to 5 years?
It's, again, a really great question, Susan. And I think the main factor for me is remaining agile and flexible in the mobility space. I think that has been a theme that's been coming up gradually, but in particular since COVID, where we all had to kind of reevaluate our positions and how we support. And the mobility space had to really come up with some very innovative new solutions. And I think they will remain into place, whether we're talking about commuters, whether we're talking about remote work, whether we're talking about how do we adapt to all of the new legislative requirements that have been coming up, also in a post-COVID landscape. I think those are all very, very important topics. And then we also have the additional generational change. So we have Gen Z or Gen Z employees, the Zoomers, who are becoming more and more important in our workforce, and we want to keep them engaged. And I think the underlying sort of red thread throughout this is, how do we do that? And I think at the Adecco Group, we've come up with a solution which works very well, and I think is something that can be applied in any type of organization, and that is aligning talent with mobility. So we don't look only at who do we need in country X right now because somebody is moving on to a different position or has left the company or going on maternity leave. That's the old system. The new system is, who do we need in country X because we have a talent need there, or we have somebody who in 2 or 3 years is going to be moving on to a new position, and we need somebody who can potentially replace him or her. And who is that person within the organization? And how do we make sure that we have a talent pipeline that's in place that is set up for this type of situation? And it's complicated. It requires countries talking to countries, working with the talent and the mobility organizations. But I think it's also very important and very rewarding. And it's also a way of making sure that the different generations, be it Generation X or millennials or Generation Z or whatever, can all be brought into that picture because it's inclusive. And I think that that's really the future of work as I see it. And we need to build up for that. And that's going to take 3 to 5 years. There's no doubt about it.
Excellent, Heather. And I've learned so much from listening to you when you talk about some of the key points of alignment. And to be aligned takes listening, to take testing, to have a strategic view of in 3 to 5 years, this is how we're looking to grow. And recognizing the inner today and tomorrow's workforce will be intergenerational. How do we listen to them, understand them better, and assure that our talent needs are aligned with their needs so that it is cost effective, that it drives positive outcomes for their professional development, as well as managing costs, is compliant, and meets companies' talent objectives. So fabulous for you and for the Adecco Group that you're taking that step, being strategic in your short and long-term strategic goals to ensure that you and your constituents at the Adecco Group remain as a player in that talent management, talent mobility ecosystem. So really fantastic. Thank you. So now on to the last question, Heather. Given the ongoing uncertainty of geopolitical and economic turbulence, how does global mobility fit into the demand for talent and remain relevant?
It's a great question, and I really appreciated your summary, Susan, of my last question, because I think it feeds in well to this. I think global mobility as a function is sort of, it's the place where people meet. You know, whether you have a talent need and a business need, and you have a person in another country, whether you have a political situation that you're trying to work around and find people who can support that, whether you are just looking to grow somebody from a future generation, so from an early generation to a new need that will be in the future, I think that is where mobility can be there. And I think the main topic is adapting. And I think you have a skill set if you're in the mobility space, or if you're a partner who's working with somebody in the mobility space. And the best thing you can do is to your point, what you've raised throughout this conversation, which I think is incredibly important, is have a dialogue, have a partnership, make sure that you're working with all of the parties who are involved, be it your business partner, be it the management of the organization, be it with the partner vendor that you are engaged with, because everybody needs to be in that dialogue. The world is changing so quickly right now. AI is also playing a role, there's no doubt about that. But for us to be fit for purpose and fit to deliver, we need to have that dialogue going and adapt as quickly as possible, remain as flexible as much as possible to meet the needs.
Heather, I love what you said, and I'm going to write down for future: fit to purpose and fit to deliver. That is so critically important in this fast changing, uncertain environment. You've shared such incredible pearls of wisdom, and I greatly appreciate your time and your experience. Thank you to everyone who's listened. Please check us out on TIRA's at www.tiranetwork.com, our YouTube channel, where you will find this and other fantastic interviews. Thank you again, Heather. It was such a great pleasure.
My pleasure as well. Thank you so much, Susan.